Hi. Today I just want to look at a few ideas, and I want to look at some stories and talk about some opportunities in which we can perhaps really work towards bringing hope to our people in our villages and in our economy. I believe that there's an opportunity for us to pull together, in whatever space we're in, a powerhouse of prayer and worship and prophecy. And I'll start there as a foundational point, and it's not all about that. It's a very practical talk about ideas of bringing together hopeful people who don't have work right now, and they may have a community of many who don't have work right now. So that in itself, I can expand, and you can just send me an email and I'll send you a script to use one of those in your communities or churches. And then in that environment, you may also find that there are new people on the block who just love the Lord and who want to testify, but they're still babies in the Lord. So one idea there might be, let's pull them together into one place with a selected audience of a group of 10, 20 people to whom they can share their testimonies on a regular basis as they go through their walk, almost like Pilgrim's Progress, as they take step by step, lesson by lesson, scripture by scripture, and apply that into shifting their behavior. That can also be videoed in small parts. It can be edited. It can be put together with each step of the story, one at a time, or all together at one step, whichever works to bring inspiration and hope that change is possible, because sometimes we feel so strongly about the leopard never changing its spot that we struggle to believe that lives are being changed as they enter into a relationship with the living God. So that is an opportunity that we can bring in as well. And then looking at the economy at the moment, it's not in a good place, not where we live anyway. And I was reminded of a couple of stories as I've traveled over the last year, looking at different economies and getting excited and wondering if this is a possible piece of a puzzle that if we put together in our communities, we could come up with provision and solutions to deal with some of the issues that families are facing right now. So there are 5 stories that I want to share very quickly with you. The one was that years ago I visited Hershey, the chocolate factory, and what I learned at that stage, and this is many years ago, but when the founder had found that village, he liked the work ethic, he liked the fact that the people needed work, and that there was sufficient water. The folk were not well educated, and so working in factories would be an option for them. So he brought in the factory and he provided work, and so the little village grew. And it grew around the chocolate factory. Because the man and his wife never had children, they traveled a lot and they saw the world. And in their trust, when they passed away, they left a will that the orphanage that they had opened would continue to educate children right through and offer them a home, provision, accommodation, everything they needed to take them right through to a college level, which would equip them to raise the standard in their own lives and if they stayed in the village as well. So he left a phenomenal legacy. As well as that, as he and his wife traveled, they might, for example, see sights and go to the opera house, and they'd come back and they'd see that their village needed a hall in which they could also have their choirs sing and perform. And I think those days were a little bit early for the open mic and those kind of things, but they would then build as La Scalia, a little mini version. So they brought the world to the village, which I personally found very exciting. Then I looked at my friend's daughter, and she has just grown up, been educated in a good school, but had such a love for jewelry and a touch with her hands to make things happen. She worked close with her dad, who was always tinkering around with cars, but she chose to work with jewelry, and so he set her up in her workshop. Now, in her mid-20s, she runs her own business, and she not only has the skill of making her jewelry, she also has the skill of marketing online, and she's providing overseas, sending into the States, providing large corporations with their corporate gifts, as well as local people buying from her as well. And her skill is in getting her word out there. So that's an individual just making a difference, going from her small village and into a larger village. And talking about villages, we went and stayed in a small village in Germany. And my friend said to me, you have to see the muesli shop. Come with us and have a look. And this whole shop was muesli. And she was so excited because this was a German student who'd come up with the idea of providing muesli in all sizes and with all types of variety, so that your sports, your health and needs were all considered, and you could just pick up and go, or you could mix, match and go, and you had different size containers in which to do that. Which then brought me to New Zealand, when my daughter said, please go buy this muesli for us and don't buy any other, because this is the one we like, or granola. And so I went and bought it, and only afterwards discovered that this particular muesli was made by a church, through a church. They ran the factory, and I had attended that church college years ago, and the two things that I'd carried home with me, besides my learning and my studies and what I had done during that period, were the recipes for granola and muesli. They were such a hit. And here I'm thinking, wow, a whole country has learnt how wonderful this is. And whether it was the original recipe or not, I'm not sure, but it did amuse me to think that that had happened in a whole country, that they'd taken what I had learnt in a small college, in a small village, about their most favourite recipes. And then if I look at those pieces, and I say, if I come closer home and look at the folk who are unemployed, who are specialised but don't find that sort of work in our village, whose wives have found work nearby but they cannot find, so they're raising the children, I have no problem with that. But I do have a problem if we're not learning, if we're not growing, if we're not exposed to something, so that when he's ready, or when the children are ready and he needs to get back into the workplace, that man has a CV that's been developed, that woman, whoever it is. And so I believe there's scope for us to do a little bit more around the design, the brainstorming design through to the prototypes, and then testing the market where we are. It reminds me of when I ran supervisory courses and folk had to learn the principles by setting up their own business, which they then ran on the final day with their product, their services, whatever they had to offer. They had to literally count their money and come up with their conclusions in terms of whether they'd made profit. And there were many basic lessons that were learned during that period. Folk were excited about their high profit, and I said, well, where's your salary? No, we didn't pay you the salary. We're going to just share the profit. Others said, yes, but now nobody wanted our product, or it was too expensive, or we've got some food over, so we'll just use it at home. But we're not going to write that off as bad stock, or we just made a good profit and we've still got all this over. So there were just lots of basic lessons. And I think that we can do that as well. I also think our children would learn the principles through our behavior if we come up and we're more innovative, because we need it. So there's just some ideas. Start with the powerhouse of prayer and prophecy, so that we can have a deep well from which to draw wisdom and insight and inspiration to give hope to our village, with an industry that the world needs, because obviously that's still another question. What is it that we need, that we don't just become partakers in the whole consumerism and wastage economy? So I hope there's some ideas there, some seeds have been planted, a few pieces of the puzzle that may be valuable to you wherever you are. God bless.